Wesley, episode 12 of the Suited Kings podcast already. Where does the time go, my friend?
Time flies when you're having fun.
It sure does, man. It's been an awesome year playing poker. We've been traveling a lot, just playing a ton of poker. I know it won't always be like that, so I'm just being thankful to be able to do all that. Let's before we get into today's topic, let's talk a little bit about the last week for both of us. I know you just got back from Vegas this morning. What happened out there?
Yeah, I mean, it went fairly well. I got out there last Wednesday, I was out there for like a week. I got there, slept the whole first day. And
That's a natural West thing to do.
Yeah, especially with, I flew out at like 6 a.m. with a friend and just like barely slept. I slept on the plane, but then I got there and I'm like, I shouldn't play poker. I should just sleep for a lot of time.
Okay. All right.
So did that. Thursday, I played day 1A of the 1100 WPT Prime. 5 million guaranteed. It got like a $10 million prize pool.
That's insane on a 1K buy-in.
Yeah. So I bagged one bullet, a little bit below average stack, but like anytime you can get through on your first bullet, we're right into the money. So that
it feels so good.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
The next day I played the 600, the last flight of the $600 250K guaranteed at MGM. I bagged that on one bullet too, right into the money.
So let me ask. So you bagged day one, or you bagged your first bullet of the WPT Prime Championship 1K, and you had how many days off? 3 days off or something?
Yeah, because there were 3 more day ones. So
all right, and then so in one of those days off, you played a 600. You said, was it a Venetian?
That was an MGM.
Or MGM, you said that. Okay. And then you bagged that to play the following day, right?
Yes, that was Friday. Day 2 was on Saturday.
The double bag, man. Holy cow. Gotta love that. I don't know if I've ever had 2 bags at one time.
It was a good feeling. I'm like,
2 bags, one less.
2 day 2s where I'm already in the money. Like, how sweet is that?
Good
now,
feeling,
we're not going to talk too much about online because I played a little online and it went horrendously. But that doesn't count as part of the trip because I would have played anyways.
Right. Yeah.
So anyways, day 2 was the next day, Saturday. I was card dead. I V-pipped 2 hands in like 3 levels. I won the first one and then I busted on the second one.
Okay.
I got, I cashed for like 1,200 something.
That was in the 600. Okay.
Yep. And then I went over to Venetian. I late regged the $600 one day there and I didn't cash that. Okay. I think I chopped one hand and I didn't win another. So like I didn't win hands of poker on Saturday. But
those days happen. Hate them, but they happen.
Yeah. So Sunday I actually just didn't play. My buddy and I were thinking about going to the Vikings game out there, but we waited to see if ticket prices would go down and they just went way up instead. So
you didn't get to go then?
No. And I know you're not a huge football game, but they won 3-0.
I did see that.
It was just a sloggy game. So we watched it at like the sports book at our hotel and it was kind of fun, but
sounds like a terribly boring game. Not that I would know, but yeah, it just sounds like not very.
Yeah. We were glad we didn't spend the money on it. So it felt like a free roll in a way.
Nice.
So then Monday, I didn't play anything on Sunday, which is rare because I'm usually playing online if I'm not playing live on Sunday. But Monday I had day 2 of the Prime and man, same thing. I won one hand and then I ran jacks into kings, button versus big blind. So
I was in the Prime. Yeah. And you had 19 bigs to start the day or something.
Yeah. Yep. So not a lot I could have done there. Cashed for 1,800. Yeah. And then that day, I played a little online later that day. Lost slightly overall, but I did actually, the one event I cashed online was the ring event, which I got 9th in. So I had a sweat to get my 3rd ring.
Oh, you final tabled the ring event? And you didn't tell me.
Well, it was a 6 max, so it wasn't
Okay,
table.
well, you got top 10. That's pretty sick, man. Well done.
Yeah, but I lost on the day because I busted everything else.
Okay.
So
Still, I mean, that's 3 fun sweats on a trip when it could have been 0. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, and then the last one on Tuesday, I late reg day one of the final day one of the 800 at Venetian, and I don't know what to say. I bagged it on one bullet right into the money again. So I had 3 day ones where I just got through without rebuying at all.
Sick.
That's definitely never happened where I've just done that 3 times in a row.
Yep.
And I lasted a little longer, but yeah, I didn't get much going on day two. So another small cash. And then, yeah, I wasn't feeling the best. And my buddy was flying out that day. So I'm like, let's just get out of here, like get back to Minnesota.
Yeah.
So
I
kind of
dude,
a lukewarm success overall as far as the live poker.
after a week in Vegas, I need to get out of that place. I just feel dirty. Oh man, I want to see green. You know what I mean? Even though there's not much green here at home right now, but I just got to get out of Vegas. You've spent a
It's a
lot of
lot.
time this year. You spent what, almost 2 full months there in Vegas, something like that.
Yeah, it was like 45 days for the World Series. And then this was only my second trip. So,
Okay.
52 days, I guess.
Cool, cool. And then I played the MSPT at Running Aces, the 500K guaranteed championship. Um, I also begged on one bullet, which feels so good. I know last year I fired like 4 into it and didn't cash at all, so that was kind of annoying. But this year we fired one bullet. I begged, I think, 560K coming back to 5K BB. So coming back to day
Big.
two with over 100 bigs just feels incredible, man. Day one went pretty smoothly. I flopped a ton of sets, got a bunch of value, got my bluffs through. I mean, there's a couple times where I took some hits and just spun it back up. Played with our last interviewee or guest, Blake, a bunch on day one at the end there. And then came back on Sunday to play day two and coincidentally had Blake at my table again. So we got to battle a little bit more. Thankfully, that table busted pretty quickly. I got moved. And then, there's not really too much to report. I ended up playing one hand that I had told you about with ace four suited. It got reported where I got it all in versus sixes. I had 23 bigs. He had 13 bigs. I flop an ace. He runs a four flush. I lose that and then just essentially wasn't able to recover from there. So I ended up getting 40th for $3,020. A good
Yeah.
result off one buy. And so pretty happy with that. But what made that even more fun is I came home, registered the online grind. I played the global Sunday scrimmage, which is a $218 75K guarantee. I fired that up and then I was chip lead with 14 left and then went out in 10th. So that was kind of painful. That thing's got 14 or 15 grand up top. So it's kind of a lackluster weekend, although a profitable one. So yeah, I had a lot of fun there. Now that we've kind of talked about what happened here over the past weekend, it's time to get into the thick of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Why don't you tell the people what we're talking about today?
All right. So today's topic, we are going to get into continuation betting, or otherwise known as C betting. I guess a good way to start off this topic is by telling a story about the first time I ever heard about C betting.
Okay.
It's kind of funny. I've never told you this story, but I played a bunch of poker up to this point, but I'd never studied it or talked with anyone about poker, really, like anyone good. So I didn't really know terms and stuff like that, but I had some experience. I
Mm-hmm.
was at Running Aces circa maybe 2010 or 2011, something like that. And
Man, I
I'm
was in
in
high
a
school then, but yeah,
yeah, still
you're
in the
old,
womb.
dude.
I don't remember what tournament it was. I want to say it was a bigger one. I remember though, and I was kind of out of my comfort zone. It's like a $300 or $500 tournament or something like that. I opened a hand, and then when the flop came out, I bet the hand. I had no idea what C betting was, but I C bet there.
Mhm.
Well, I don't remember the exact action, but the guy who was he had position on me. He raised my C bet, and then I folded. I don't remember the hand history at all, other than that. But he, I folded, and he looks at me and he goes, "That's where I make all my money is from raising C bets."
And you're
I'll
just
never
gonna
forget.
like,
I'll
you're
never
like,
forget
what?
that. It just stuck in my head, this guy's face. And I was like, what the hell is C betting? I had no idea. So being, hungry to learn more, I went home and I looked it up and I started studying about it. And that was how I learned about C betting, by getting slapped around by some random guy. Uh,
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What about you? What do you remember learning about c betting?
I don't have a specific time that I remember. I used to play cash games with my friends in high school. We'd buy in for like $5 or $10. And one of my buddies, who he's actually one of my best friends to this day, but he was probably the most into poker out of the group of us back then. So he says, I learned about c betting from him because he like at least watched some videos and figured out a little strategy. He kind of introduced c betting and pot odds to us. So
Very important things to know about.
very, yeah, kind of the first sort of strategic things that I think for when people learn poker, they kind of latch on to. But yeah, it was around then. So yeah, I don't have a specific story, but it was in high school. So probably, yeah, like 2012 or so.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just funny that that story sticks in my head. I remember like, screw this guy who says that to someone. But I learned something from it, so at least I got that out of the situation. Well, today's topic again is c betting, and I think a good way to go about this is kind of how we study. What we'll do is we'll go over a bunch of hands, and we'll discuss the hands in depth, and then say whether or not we c bet, what size we went, why, kind of give the ins and outs about it. Before we get into some hands, though, I figured it'd be good to kind of give our general thoughts of what we think when c betting. I wrote down a few things here. So say I'm the pre-flop aggressor, I raise, and the big blind defends. So just got one caller,
Mhm.
and the flop comes blah blah blah. Uh, what do I think about when deciding if I should c bet here and how much to c bet? Well, there's five things, and I put them in order of importance here. So I'll kind of give them in that order. The first thing I'll look at is how many players there are. In this instance, there was just one other player. The second thing I'll think about is the board texture. I'll look at the board texture, kind of see how it interacts with my hand and even the opponent's hand, but that's kind of after. The third thing I think about is position. What position am I in, and what position are my opponents in? The fourth thing I think about is my opponent's stack sizes. And then from there, what their ranges are based on the position and the action that's happened so far. I know that's kind of a lot to take in. I don't think about through each of those as specifically each time I'm c betting because I have an intuition. I've done it enough to kind of know those things. So I kind of know how to c bet on automation essentially.
Yeah,
But those are the things that I internalize that help me make that decision or not.
agreed. Yeah, and I think it's a good idea. So just to take all those and like say, okay, so the first thing you said is the number of players in the pot.
Yeah.
So as a general rule for people, the more players there are in the pot, the less frequently you're going to see bet because it's just going to be easier to run into a big hand.
Absolutely. Yep.
And then I think the second thing you said was like board texture as far as how it favors your own, like
Yep.
compared to your own hand.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into that when we talk about specifics. But obviously, like if the board is more favorable to you, you'll bet more frequently whether or not you actually
Have
hit
it
the
or not.
flop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep. And then I look at stack sizes as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of, whether or not does my opponent have a stack size that is going to be two bet jamming on me a lot here. Like, are they shorter stacked? Are they going to have a wider jamming range, like with draws and things like that, second pairs and things like that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I have an example that I'm going to go over where it's like, it also might dictate how they played a hand pre-flop. If you're 100 bigs deep, they might just defend pocket eights out of the big blind. If you're 15 blinds deep, they might just three bet jam. So you can sort of rule out a few different types of hands if you're deeper opposed to,
Yeah.
or if you're shallow opposed to deep, etc. So yeah, lots of considerations there.
Some
And then
additional things. Sorry, additional things I'd add to that too that aren't in play all the time is, are we approaching the bubble? Should I be applying more pressure here because of the bubble? What I mean, things like that.
yeah,
So where in the tournament you're at, essentially.
that's a great example. I didn't even think of that. But yeah, like, do you have your opponent covered? And if you're near the bubble, like, are you going to be putting pressure on them, or are you going to kind of be applying pressure to yourself by putting chips in the pot?
Yeah. And we'll talk about all that pot controlling, et cetera, as we decide if we're going to see bet or not. What kind of things do you think about when when it's your turn to c bet, or if you have the opportunity to c bet?
Yeah, so it's a lot of the same things as you. The way I kind of think about it is there are three reasons to bet in general. There's value to get value,
Hmm.
to bluff your opponent off a better hand. And then if we're talking about on the flop, you can also bet to deny equity or protect your hand. And so these are kind of the three general reasons. So if I'm betting, I have to, in my mind, I have to sort of know which one of these I'm doing. You
Yeah.
know,
Okay. Okay.
if you have a made hand and you bet it, but then if your opponent calls, you suddenly think you're not good anymore, then
Hmm.
it wasn't really that good of a value bet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
Something, one thing I want to add to that too is I think it's kind of important that sometimes these things are what's that the circle called where they overlap again?
oh,
You know what I'm talking about.
I know
So,
what you're
anyways, some
talking.
of the, but yeah, anyways, they overlap a little bit. So, for example, you could be value betting and denying equity at the same time.
100%, 100%.
Do you want to give a quick explanation to newer listeners, newer players, what denying equity means?
Yeah. So let's say we have pocket fives and the board's like king four deuce.
Hmm.
We're going to, a lot of the reason to bet pocket fives here is because hands like 9-7 will just fold. Hands where they have two live cards, they have about 25% against us. Like we're betting thinking we usually have the best hand, but it's not necessarily to get a ton of action.
Hmm.
One of the biggest benefits of betting pocket fives on a king four deuce board is like your opponent will fold a lot, but the hands that they fold will have had a decent chance to
For
outplay
example,
you.
like Jack Queen, where you check back your pocket fives, and and then all of a sudden a Jack comes on the turn. You're denying hands like that opportunity to win the pot that
Yeah,
they would just fold there.
it's the sort of thing where your hand isn't strong enough to trap, because if they get a piece of anything, now they're going to be ahead
Hmm.
of your hand. Whereas like sometimes you have a very strong, if you have a set, sometimes you'll want to trap because you want them to catch something to pay you off a little. Yeah, so sort of just winning the pot without giving your opponent a chance to improve when you think they have a hand that can easily improve to beat you, but also a hand that they'll easily fold.
Okay, cool. I appreciate you explaining that. So I'm kind of excited to talk about today's hands because we're doing a new format here, which is kind of aligned with how Wes and I would study. So we got a bunch of hands each. We're going to discuss, the pre-flop action, and then we're gonna guess whether each other c bet or whether they didn't c bet, and then the sizing of the c bet if they did.
Yeah, and the one thing I did want to also add to what I think about when c betting is like just kind of generally what you said, but do we have the range advantage? Meaning, kind of as you alluded to, does this board favor hands we would have more than our
Hmm.
opponent?
Yeah.
And as we get into these hands, we'll get into some general rules. So yeah, let's get into some of the hands because
I can't wait to see if you think I just slaughtered some of these or not. I'll let you take it away with the first one.
yeah. So, well, the very first hand, and this is the only hand that I put through any sort of solver tool, but I think it'd be fun to like pull a few examples from this particular spot. So I went into GTO Wizard and I said, okay, we're 60 big blinds deep in a tournament. We raise the cutoff to 2.3 big blinds and only the big blind calls. So 6.1 bigs in the pot. The flop is 975 rainbow. So now this is a board, and then let's say the big blind checks. So we're in the cutoff. The board is 975 rainbow. Off the top of your head, like, because there are some boards I think we just see bet everything on.
Yeah.
Off the
This
top of
one,
your
this one, I'm not just c betting no matter what.
Agreed. And that would be my instinct too. And that's also what comes up here on the charts.
The
So,
the reason I'll just give a brief explanation of why I think that is because our opponent's range, again, big blind defending range, is going to have so many pairs, so many straight draws, so many two pairs, just going to have everything that interacts with that board that they're not going to fold to at least one c bet.
mhm. And just as importantly, we're not like, if we can have 8-6 suited here for a straight, but that's only four combos, whereas
Mhm.
they will defend with all 16. They'll have
Eight
eight
six
six
offs.
offsuit,
Yeah.
eight six suited. They'll have like every suited combo of like nine, they'll have 9-3 suited. We won't. They'll have like 9-7 off, 7-5 off. We don't have either of those. So like we can have all the strong hands, but we'll have less combos of them because we'll only have like the suited varieties. What sort of hands do you think you're looking to check back?
Okay. I'm probably checking back a lot of my two overs with broadways. So like my
Mhm.
ace kings, my ace queens, my ace jacks, my it was 975, right?
Yep.
Rainbow. You
Mhm.
know, I think I'm going to just be checking back a lot of my overcards and trying to realize equity. And ones that I might not check back or I might see bet small are ones that like have some sort of nut backdoor interaction. Like say there's one diamond on the board and I have like a six of diamonds or something like that. Um,
Okay.
so I have a gutter with some backdoor nuts, you know what I'm saying?
So I definitely agree with the checkbacks. Also, some of the checkback, like there's one thing that's interesting about this is like we'll have both ace five and then we'll have 5-6 suited. So ace five is a slightly stronger hand because they're both bottom pair, but ace
Hmm.
five is better kicker. But it actually wants to bet ace five more frequently and then almost always check 5-6 suited. And I think that's because like the 5-6 suited does not need to deny equity as much because if an eight rolls off now, with that hand, we have a little more interaction with the board.
Okay. Yeah. So it wants us to c bet ace five, but check back things like five, six with so a bottom pair with
Mostly,
gutter.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I don't think you're gonna go wrong doing a little bit of both. But yeah, it wants to check a lot of bottom pair and middle pair too, because these are hands where there's a good enough chance we're ahead now. But if we bet and get check raised, we're not like we probably can't hold on with these hands if our opponent's looking to pile chips in, you know?
Okay.
Like some of the weaker, like 10-9 off, Jack 9 off, like it kind of says we should mix it up. And I think the idea here is like, even if we have a hand that's likely good, if we're up against an opponent that's going to be able to bluff us some, like we're going to get ourselves in some sticky situations if we're going to bet all of our made hands.
Okay.
Now one thing to also keep in mind is like if we're playing in a lot of the normal live tournaments, sometimes you can be up against an opponent who when they check raise you just know they have a good hand.
Yeah.
So I don't think you should just blindly be following this advice. Like if you have a 9, go ahead and bet it against that type of opponent
Yeah.
and you're not going to get raised much. And if you
Hmm.
are, you can just throw it away because they probably have you. Yeah, and I think so what as far as sizing, are there certain hands you might size differently? Are there like what size would you kind of default to here?
It might not be GTO, but yes, I think there are. I actually have a hand that's almost very similar to this
Okay.
this spot where
We'll do
I
that one right after this then.
right and there's so in that hand specifically, you know, and I don't know this is correct if it's correct because it's a multiple there's three players in the hand compared to two, which isn't as, you know what I mean? So it makes it more difficult to solve. But like for example, if I had like maybe like pocket tens or pocket jacks here, I might size those up slightly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that actually is like correct theory wise too.
Okay.
Um,
But and again, it's for the reasons like you said, it's to value bet and deny equity at the same time. And but plus my hand is so strong that I'm not really value owning myself too much.
yeah, definitely. And for the rest of the hands, we don't really need to be solver correct and
Yeah.
whatnot. Like I
Yeah.
don't I think it's best to just like think about, give an idea as to what we're thinking about in these situations. But yeah, no, I agree. Like those over pairs and then yeah, along with some bluffs like maybe Jack 10 suited or Jack 8 suit stuff with like a gutter and backdoor
Yeah,
double.
something that where you have a lot of turn cards you could continue on that, you know, we discussed in previous episodes when you should double and barrel triple double and triple barrel bluff more
Yep.
often. Okay.
Yeah. And then I think the last thing is just there's some hands that when we check back, like there's the ace highs and the medium pairs, like those are sort of we're trying to get to showdown and maybe we'll call
Okay.
screen bet. Then there's some like queen four suited where it's like if we check that, or king deuce suited, these
Mhm.
are mostly just give ups. Like unless we turn a flush draw or turn a pair, we're just checking to give up because it's like we have almost no interaction with the board, and we don't have a strong enough hand to do anything with.
I'm glad you brought this spot up, because the rest of the hands are going to be a lot more like our hand will be specific. Whereas in this example, like you're just explaining what you would do with different hands if you were to see bet. So this is kind of a very open ended hand history, which I think was super cool to bring up.
For sure.
Um, what did you have and what did you see bet, or what did you have and then I'll guess what you see bet, or is this just not a?
This is just one I was thinking of. Like I don't
Okay,
have a specific hand from this spot.
okay.
So
Did you have further thoughts on this one?
the only thought, which this will apply to our other hands too, is like generally speaking, if a board is more dry, we can bet smaller and more frequently. There's some exceptions where we can bet larger actually, but and then on a lot of wet boards, like this one I would consider a little wet, even though there's no flush draw, but there's a straight available and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of straight draws they could have.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to bet less frequently. And when we do, we'll size up a lot of the time
Okay.
because we're assuming they're going to have a decent amount of hands that have something going on, and a small c bet isn't going to be as effective there.
Okay. I before we move on, I have one more question I kind of wanted to ask about. So the board is 975, right? Rainbow.
Yep.
So when we have these bottom and middle pair hands as the opener, are we going to? And this question is more for myself, out of my curiosity. Are we going to be pot controlling those more in tournaments and betting them more in cash games because of tournament life, or is that generally not? Does that not
Yeah.
apply that way?
So I would say in ICM, like in spots where ICM is a bigger factor, yes, but like day one of a tournament, or if we
Okay.
just burst the bubble, like probably not.
So when ICM is in factor, so for example, when we're nearing the money bubble or a bigger pay jump, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I like that hand. And yeah, those are a bunch of great different examples on when we should and shouldn't see bet depending on what we have. So moving on to one of my hands here. This is actually a cash game. It's a 1-2 cash game. It's on global. I start the hand with $335. So yeah, I start the hand with 165 bigs. I make it two big blinds under the gun with ace 10 of hearts. Folds to cut off with 90, with 101 bigs. He calls.
Okay.
Folds around to the big blind with 131 big blinds and he calls. So we're very deep here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of this is that hand that I'd mentioned where it was a very similar spot. There are some differences that make it that completely change it. So I'll explain. The board is 7 of clubs, 5 of diamonds, 10 of clubs. So instead of 9-7-5
Yeah.
range, it's 7-10-5 with a club draw or with two clubs.
Yeah.
Now there's let's see, there's 6.5 bigs in the pot.
Mm-hmm.
Big blind checks. Are we c betting this?
So I think
Three ways in a cash game.
yeah, I think if we're heads up against the big blind, we're always betting, and we're probably betting on the bigger side.
Okay.
With the guy who called in position, like it's tougher multi-way. Like I wouldn't mind checking and I wouldn't mind betting.
I bet, I see bet, and I value bet. Being on such a wet board, I'm trying to deny equity. And because the board is so wet, and I think that I often enough have the best hand at this moment, I sized up. I went 4.5 bigs into 6.5 bigs.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just like, especially in a sort of game where someone is in a cash game where someone's flatting. Like, yeah, I think the logic makes a lot of sense here because you're not worried about over pairs. It's going to be very hard. Like both your opponents aren't going to have much to pair. The big blind could have like 10-7 suited, 10-5 suited,
Yeah, cutoff could have pocket sevens or pocket fives.
Yeah, they both could, but it's just like so as far as combination of hands that you're losing to, there aren't very many of them right now. Like I think it's good to note that since it's a cash game, the big blind should be defending tighter, and so they shouldn't have like 10-7 off, 7-5 off.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a board where like you're value betting, and if you get raised, you're probably comfortable calling at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Because oftentimes they will have equity, but I'll have the best hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially my point and my reasoning is I go, around two-thirds to deny equity to all over cards and then to charge all straight draws, which there's a ton of combinations of straight draws and flush draws. And then also charge all pairs.
Yep.
Because I have top pair, top kicker. So essentially, you know what I mean? So there's a lot more hands that I'm getting value from. It's a little scary three ways on this board because sometimes I'll end up with a super inflated pot on a turn that I'm just hating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but at that point, if a scary card does come, say a jack of clubs comes on the turn, a queen of clubs, a king of clubs, any of those comes on the turn, or even like a nine of clubs, you know what I mean? I can just check fold at that point if I need to.
Yep. Yeah, and I was gonna go into the rest of the hand. I'm like, no, we're just talking about c betting the
I,
flop this
I
episode.
actually have the rest of the hand mapped out here, but yeah, just to stay on track today. I know there's so much. I'm like, do we double? Should I double c bet? It just for the listeners, I ended up c betting. Yeah, two-thirds pot. I checked back the nine of spades turn. Big blind and fold on the flop. Cut off. Then bets 12 into 16. I call. River comes another offsuit 10. So I have trips on. I guess I'm only losing to like jack eight and sets essentially at this point.
Well, he won't have jack eight in the cutoff, but
Right.
you could have if there's one combo of 10-9 suited, or yeah, like a
9-10 suited.
sevens,
Yeah.
fives, or
Yeah. So, anyways, the river came in offsuit 10. I checked it to him because I called his turn. I was trying to keep his bluffs in essentially, but I didn't raise his river bet with trips. Doesn't matter. He ended up having king 10, which I could have got value from.
I remember he had king 10 off. That's just a bad call
Yeah.
pre-flop.
I mean, if he has king 10 off, he probably has jack 8 suited, honestly.
Yes. So that's the sort of thing where you're totally right about that.
But not a big deal. I mean, and the truth is, again, a lot of these opponents that we're playing, I mean, most of them, I would say a majority of opponents we're playing aren't playing strict range guidelines, GTO guidelines. You know what I mean? They're splashing, they're getting into the mix. They get bored. There's all these different elements that will induce them. I mean, King 10, he's like, this is a pretty hand. I know a guy opened under the gun, but
Yeah.
he might not even think that. So
Absolutely. And so that's a perfect line of thinking for like, if you're in a live 200, 300, 500, even a 1K, you're going to get a lot of holdings that shouldn't necessarily be there. So,
yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, yeah. So, on these wet boards, three ways we decided to go for value instead of checking here. And I sized up to try and charge all of the draws and stuff that there are.
And I think, it's a good example. And it's good to note, like, if you flopped a draw, you would play that the same way. Mm-hmm. And your value, like ace 10, you're going to probably do that with like ace 10 over pairs sets.
Exactly. Yep. That's exactly how I would play all those. Oh, except for a set. I mean, we didn't
on
talk
the flop,
about the turn. Yeah, on the flop,
yeah.
Exactly. So not moving past that. But okay, what do you got for next 10?
Yeah, so I have a few examples here. The first one is we're in the cutoff. We have 25 big blinds in a tournament. We're gonna just assume there's no ICM in any of these spots, no ICM implications. So the first one, we're in the cutoff. We have 25 bigs. We open 10-9 suited, and the big blind defends. Flop is 8 deuce deuce rainbow.
You have 9-10 suited.
Yep.
Backdoor flush.
Yes.
Okay.
But also my answer wouldn't change.
Okay. Still just curious. Okay. Are we c betting here? Is that the question? And it was just the big blind who called?
Yep.
Tournament. Yeah. So you have 23 bigs or so behind. My gut wants to say yes, but I feel like you don't. I want to say that you c bet very small here. Like,
yep. Yeah. And I think this is a pretty simple example, I think, compared to
you're just folding out so many hands, especially ones that beat you. Any jack highs, queen highs, king highs, ace highs oftentimes don't fold here, but sometimes they will if it depending on the player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think basically the point here is like 8 deuce deuce rainbow is such a dry board.
Yeah.
It's like we can bet tiny. And so when I say that, I mean like quarter pot or even 1/5 pot. Like we can bet
like
tiny,
really small.
We'll just get a lot of folds. And even if we get a call, like we have 2 overcards, we have a backdoor straight draw. Like I know we're not talking about double and triple barreling this episode, but if a jack comes on the turn, we can bluff that too,
I think
etc.
it's still important to mention maybe what we would do on the turn, depending on, because I mean that often will play into if we're c betting or not. You know what I mean? Like when we're c betting, oftentimes another thing I'm thinking about that I didn't add earlier in my general thoughts is that what cards could come that I could represent if I c bet here. You know what I mean? So we'll get into. I have more hands that gets into that kind of topic more, but so yeah, you c bet small. I guess the thought here is that we're just c betting these dry boards and we're c betting them small just because we're getting a lot of better hands and just a lot of hands to fold in general. We're denying equity, we're bluffing, and we're getting, a lot of, a lot of better hands to fold.
Yeah. And we're betting, basically every hand we have, we can just bet on this board.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything we're opening from there. All right. So my next one it's a tournament. It's a global tournament. It's from the Eagle Cup. So it's a trophy event. It's a $55 six max bounty. If it's a six max, so let's see. But so I'm in hijack essentially. I'm under the gun one, which is hijack and six max. It folds to me in hijack. I have ace of hearts and king of clubs. We have 37 and a half big blinds, okay? We make it two big blinds. Folds to the button who calls and the big blind calls. So there's 7.1 big blinds in the pot. We get the four of clubs, 10 of hearts, six of clubs. Both opponents have me covered here, okay?
And you said you had ace king.
I have ace king, ace of hearts, king of clubs. There's two clubs, one heart on the board.
All right.
There's no ICM implications at this point.
Yeah. So you're multi-way?
We're three ways. Button and big blind are in the hand.
And it checks to you.
Checks to me. What am I doing?
I'm just checking here. It's this is the type of hand where like you have a little showdown value. You have if the button bets and the big blind folds, like you can call, like you have a decent hand to check call.
Mm-hmm.
But this isn't the right type of hand where you're going to be wanting to triple barrel most likely. And so it is better than having no club or heart even.
Exactly. So that comes into play in my thought here.
Okay. So you go with the C bet then.
I do. So listen, in most times here on this spot, I am actually going to check back. In this specific spot, I did not. And for the reasons exactly what you mentioned, like I'm just going to try and check back and realize that's equity. Turn a club, turn a jack, turn a queen, turn an ace, turn a king. All of those I would love to see, right? However, this time, because I had the king of clubs, I decided to start range repping and I c bet.
Okay.
With 7.1 in the pot and three players, what am I c betting here?
Size wise, something like there are a couple different thoughts here because multi-way, I'm thinking you want to go smaller usually, but also it is sort of a wet board. But let's see, you're 35 blinds effective now.
35 and a half bigs, yep.
Do something like two bigs, a little over two bigs.
So I actually hate how I play this hand.
Good caveat.
But so I went with a sizing that I just don't like at all. I went with the one. There's three options here: small, big, or in between, right? And my dumbass went with in between. So I went exactly half pot. I would like to either go small or go big here.
Well, I think that counts as big when you're this deep because you're not 100 bigs deep. So like that is sort of a big sizing when you're.
But for example, when I had ace 10 on the board, very similar to this, I went 2/3.
Yeah, but you were 130 bigs deep with the opponent. Like here, you're like this one.
That's a great point.
You'll easily be able to triple barrel all in if that.
Yeah, exactly. So I decided to, with this specific hand, having the two overs, the club, I decided to c bet this hand. And the reason is because my plan is to continue aggressing on any of those turns I mentioned. Again, that's like I have ace of hearts, king of clubs on a 4, 6 of clubs, 10 of hearts flop. So again, any club, any ace, king, queen, jack, those would all give me either a pair, a straight draw, or a flush draw. And then I can just rep those to continue the hand. Those are hands that I would end up triple barreling out probably on.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's good to mention that the reason I actually don't mind the sizing is because like when you're making a bet size, it's both relative to the pot, but also relative to your stack size in tournaments. Because like the half pot, if you're 100 some big steep, it's not really setting up a big triple barrel necessarily. But well, it still could, I guess, if you're gonna like over bet turns. But like with this stack size, like that is definitely considered a big c bet.
Hmm.
So yeah, like if you open if you min raise off of 12 big blinds and get a caller, like, and you have 10 bigs left and there's 5.5 in the pot, like you're not gonna a three big blind c bet is like super unnecessary. Like betting a third pot is like a big sizing in that.
Well, I'll be able to sleep tonight, Wes, knowing that you think the half pot is okay. So thank you for that. So yeah, again, this one is a spot where I think it can go both ways. Ace King three ways on a 4-10-6. If there's ICM implications in play, I'm more than likely going to be checking here. Being that there's not, I think I'm just going to range rep and try and build it up. And even I think most of the time I'm checking, and only a little bit of the time I'm going to be betting here, especially three ways. So yeah, that's that hand. What's your next one?
Yeah, so the next one, and actually this is kind of an interesting point compared or like relative to your last hand. It was 10-6-4, so at least like your opponents aren't going to have two pair very often and there aren't straights out there. So like I think you would have played it differently if the flop had been more like this example. And so this one is we're 100 bigs deep early in a tournament. We open ace jack offsuit, big blind defends. Flop is 8-7-6 with two hearts. We have ace jack with no heart
Mm-hmm.
and check to us.
Scary board.
What are you thinking?
I'm checking.
Yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
so I think this is a good example of like if we bet, we're not really accomplishing much of anything, where we don't really want to get called, like our hand isn't strong enough for value. But
I'm
also,
almost checking my entire range on this board, even aces potentially.
what's funny is like I actually wrote down the next example was like if we had aces here, what would you do? And I think, yeah, at 100 big blinds deep, we're not looking to get pocket aces in on the 8-7-6
Exactly.
board.
So I'm pot controlling. Exactly. I can,
Yeah.
and often am I not getting three streets of value with my hand on that board. So I think checking back, pot controlling, and then even getting two streets depending on what the board run out is.
Yeah. So what's like there are probably some hands I'm betting here. So if you were to think of a few hands that you're betting, what would they be and what sort of sizing would you use?
Remind me the exact board and colors and texture again.
8-7-6 with two hearts and we'll say a spade. So 8-7 of hearts with six of spades.
Like hands that I would probably see bet on here are like it's two hearts, one spade, right?
Mm.
Probably like 10 jack of spades. Like hands that have like nut ability but don't have showdown value. So like
Mm.
10 jacks, maybe even queen jacks, but more so like 10 jacks. And then like
Queen 10
maybe
suited probably
what's
have the
that?
gutter. Queen 10 suited have the
Yeah.
gut shot.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, hands like that exactly. And then man, not probably not a lot of hands am I going to be c betting on this board. I would c bet sets.
Yeah. I think the obvious one is if I flop the straight with 10-9 suited, like
Yeah, yeah.
I would see bet that. I
Yeah.
like the Jack 10 suited. As far as the draws, I'm gonna probably lean towards c betting more with the ones with a ton of equity and the ones with lower equity. So like the lower equity ones being like you said, the Jack 10 of spades, maybe Queen 10 with one heart
Yeah.
or two spades,
Some
gutter
backdoor
and
ability.
backdoor. Where it's like if our opponent starts putting pressure on it, like we don't have to fold out too much equity when we fold.
Mhm.
And at least we get to get our opponent to fold ace high, king high. And then stuff like Jack 9 of hearts, where we're open ended with the flush draw, where it's like, if we get check raised, like, cool, we're happy calling. We have so much equity, it doesn't matter if we're up against two pair or something.
So you have ace deuce of hearts here. You see betting ace deuce of hearts.
Probably not. I mean, I might once in a while,
Mhm.
but my thought is like ace high is sometimes good, and it's good to
If
in
ace high is
people.
good here, you have a lot of equity with that a best hand and a flush draw.
Yeah, like this is a version. If we had ace deuce of clubs, we're checking and just giving up if our opponent bets the turn. It's nice to have hands that you check back that can easily call turns too.
Yeah.
And I think generally speaking, too, people sort of when you check back a flop where there's a flush draw, they're unlikely to believe that you have that. And
Okay.
so it's good to, if we're going to bet like
It is true. Yeah, like you get paid a lot more when your flushes hit if you check back your flush draws. It happens for sure. On the other side though, you're losing a little bit of expected value if you hit your flush by not building the pot ahead of that, but that doesn't matter really.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, the idea behind it being like,
It's hard to hit flushes.
you're going to hit the flush, you're going to miss the flush mostly. And then you're going to, you know, if they had a hand, which we're kind of saying it's likely that they do have something, like
Hmm.
we're saving money in that instance too. So, you know, yeah, yeah, I think it's a good example where like our opponent from the big blind can have they can have all the different two pairs, like 8-7, 8-6, 7-6. They can have 10-9 suited and offsuit, whereas we can really only have 10-9 suited,
Hmm.
probably.
Yeah.
I
That's a
forgot.
great hand because it's such a scary board that you really have to be careful on what you're doing at that point, especially with big hands so that you don't lose all your chips.
Yeah. And lastly, I don't know if we said this, but if you're betting, what sort of size are you using?
If I am c betting with those hands that we had mentioned, like the Jack 10 suited, the Queen 10s with a heart, things like that, I'm probably always just betting small here
Interesting. Okay. I was going to say bet big.
and charge like single pair hands.
Yeah. Cause like if we have, you know, we're talking about the hands we would bet for value here, and it's basically like straights or sets.
Hmm.
It's like we want to get all the money in with those.
That's a
So
good point.
that's
So
sort of,
that's okay. All right. I can get I see the
yeah.
logic behind that.
And to be clear, like I don't know exactly what a solver would say, but that's sort of my thought. It's like I'm going to bluff the same way I'm going to value bet, and my value bet hands are going to want to get all of it in. So,
Okay. Okay.
uh,
Is that the rest all you had for that hand?
yeah,
I got a fun one for the next one. I've actually mentioned this hand to you. I don't know if you remembered or not.
I probably
But
do.
yeah, I probably do. This is in the FPC High Roller. Do you remember who it was against?
I think so. I think so. Did you have ace deuce?
No.
No, you didn't have ace. Did someone else have ace
Yep.
deuce?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Remind me what the action exactly was.
All right. So it's the Fall Poker Classic High Roller, $2,500 buy-in. I'm in the cutoff with 92K at 3K BB. So I have just under 31 big blinds.
Okay.
I have Jack 10 off in the cutoff.
Mhm.
I make it 6K.
All right.
Zeke in the small blind calls. He has me covered with over 50 bigs. And then Blake Bond calls in the big blind with over 60. So Blake's got us both covered. The flop comes 9-10 Queen Rainbow. We have Jack 10.
Single
I
pair.
didn't put any suits here, so I guess it didn't really matter. Both blinds check. Are we c betting here? And if we are, how much?
Multi-way, I kind of like a check just because, I mean, it's not like obviously our hand has equity and it's pretty good, but like if we bet and we get called, we're not really sure where we are.
Hmm.
Like it's not a clear value bet. And also we
Exactly.
don't need to deny that much equity because like we have the open ender. So we're not afraid of a lot of the cards that bring stuff in. Like
Hmm.
we have that. So we're not as worried about it.
Exactly. So again, just to remind people, I have Jack 10 off. The board is 9-10 Queen. So I have middle pair with the tens, and I have a Jack for the open-ended
Mhm.
straight draw. Wes is correct here. I check back. The reasons I check back is number one, because it's not a clear value bet. I'm value owning myself against any queens. If someone's already nutted with King Jack, I block that. But there's any two pairs, 9-10 suited. There's a bunch of hands that beat me that I just don't want to get check raised by, and my hand is super strong already. So I decided to go with check. We'll talk about this hand all the way through because it's kind of funny, but
Yeah.
for those reasons, I check. The turn is a 5x, so it doesn't. It's a full true rainbow or true rainbow. It goes check check. Are we are we betting now on the 5? Or are we kind of still on the same thought process? So I guess this is in line with C bet still, because this is what we would call a delayed C bet. If we were to
Yeah.
C bet here on the turn, this is what poker players call a delayed C bet, where we check back the flop and then get checked to on the turn. So we still have the option to C bet. It's just a street later.
It's sort of for the same reasons. I still don't mind checking,
Yeah.
but
Again, being not too deep at this point, I have just under 30 bigs. And I don't want to bloat the pot where I can sometimes not have the best hand, but sometimes have the best hand. I check back again, right?
mm,
The river is a 2x. So no flushes come in. So it's 2-5. 9-10 queen rainbow.
Mhm.
It goes check and check. Do we extra delay C bet here? That's what I'm going to call it now because I don't think I ever
Yeah.
have this. I don't even know what they call this, but
This would just be, do we value bet or do we check it back?
yeah, am I value betting or am I checking back with my showdown value? What would you do here? I mean, being that it's checked all the way down to the river here,
Yeah. You probably would have heard from a queen beforehand. So
that's what I was thinking.
like you're maybe occasionally getting trapped, but pretty rarely. I mean, yeah, I think your hand is usually definitely good here the large majority of the time. It's the question of can we get a worse hand to call? And like maybe we can get some worse tens or a nine. Like I don't, Blake I've played with a bunch, and then Zeke, like I haven't played with him much at all, if at all.
Yeah.
So my thought is like if you think we have an opponent who is good, if they have any pair, they're just gonna pay you off, then definitely you want to bet.
I'm not
I
even
think,
sure either of these guys are that way in here. And I don't even know if my sizing is right on this. It says I
yeah,
bet 3/4 pot. So 15K into 19K or 20K, whatever it is.
yeah, that's probably fine. I mean, if you were kind of giving up, I actually kind of like it, because I think I would definitely value bet ace 10
Yeah.
and king 10. So like this is a pip down from king 10.
Yeah.
This is probably like the bottom of your value bets here.
Yeah, it absolutely is the bottom. Yeah. I mean, I'm checking back like ace nine, etc.
Yeah, but I think it makes sense. And the big bet makes sense too. Like betting small in position on the river is just not really a thing that's ever good.
Okay.
Um
Okay. I
and
mean,
so betting big, it's like if you could have had a hand like, king seven suited where you're just giving up and now you're like, well, they look weak, so I'm gonna just try and bluff them off. Like that would make a lot of sense.
well, of course, Zeke calls from the small blind, and then Blake raises to 80K from the
Yeah.
big blind. It's like it's such an interesting spot because being that it's checked all the way down, Blake would have wanted to get value earlier if he had been nuts. Like he's not trying to allow it to.
Maybe not though, but you would, I mean, I agree
I would
mostly.
assume no. I mean, his for him to get the most chips in, it's not checking it all the way down.
Yeah.
Three ways. I just don't see that because I have so many single pairs that I'm paying, etc., and sets,
I
etc.
will I will say like top level players would sometimes play it exactly like there's a hand I'm thinking about between me and Martin Jacobson this summer.
The flush.
Yeah, where
We
he
talked about this on the first first episode of a podcast, or
we
second
we
episode.
didn't release that one. We never released that one.
No, the second episode where we discuss hands. No, oh yeah, that wasn't in your
That
gladiator.
wasn't
You're
in
right.
that tournament.
We didn't release that episode. Never mind. Okay. Well, you guys will never get to hear that, or maybe you will.
Yeah, actually, that is a good one to release sometime. Maybe not the episode, but that hand.
Okay. Right.
Anyways,
it sucks because I know I have the best hand here a lot. With this action, I mean, a lot of the time Blake's gonna have nothing. So what I'm worried about is what Zeke called me with. So I ended up folding. Zeke ended up calling Blake's raise to 80K. Zeke had I don't even remember. He had like 7-9 suitors. I mean, he had a pair of nines, whatever, with whatever kicker. And then Blake had ace four off. So
is it ace deuce?
no, it was no pair. I think it was
Okay.
It was ace four.
Okay.
So Blake turned his hand into a bluff. Zeke made a light call correctly, and I kind of fucked myself by betting the river
tough,
with the best
because like
hand.
it is easier for him once you fold.
Yeah,
So it's so weird how like your bet it worked so well that you lost the pot.
Dude, I was so pissed, and it's in the high roller too. Imagine if I call that 80K, I'm chip leading the high roller at that point. Anyways, I lost that hand. I love myself. Do you have another hand lined up?
Yeah, a couple just more general spots that I wrote down. So we are in the hijack against a button, and we're 50 bigs effective. So we open, button calls, blinds fold. Flop is ace 10-3 with two clubs and the ace of spades. About 50 blinds effective. So this is another sort of general spot where I'm like, what are we c betting and what are we checking as a give up? What are we checking as sort of a pot control?
Gosh, that's a tough one. I'm c betting all my aces small.
Okay, so that's actually because that I think that's
now that I think about it, it depends. I'm not c betting all my aces because
Yeah, I
I'm
think
c
because
betting my premium aces and probably checking back a lot of my ace X's that are lower just to pot control a little bit.
100%. That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, because a lot of times when you check the ace high board out of position after raising pre,
Hmm.
I think it can be people will just rule out the possibility of you having an ace.
Hmm.
And when you check, you want to be protected a little. You don't want to just check with like pocket kings and
And then
queens.
just, yeah.
So yeah, I think having, if you have ace X suited or like ace eight, ace nine off, like it's probably preferable to check those.
I sometimes would check like ace king with a king of clubs here too.
Yeah, I think that's fair too. I would definitely start betting big a lot, most of my big aces. And then if I flop, ace 10 or ace three suited, two
It's
pair, I would see bet
so the flop was ace 10 what?
three.
Three with two clubs. I would be c betting small with all my queen kings and queen jacks.
Okay.
Actually,
It's a tough spot. I like,
yeah, it is tough. I'm trying to sizing is where I'm getting not so much what hands I'm c betting, but what sizing I want to go with. That's a
I could
definitely a
see
tough spot.
either, I could see either sizing too, like small or large. And I think in the moment, it would depend on a few things. Like if my opponent, one reason to see bet like a king queen is to get them to fold, pocket sevens or something. And so some
Mhm.
players will call that, some will fold that. And so, and then also some of the times it's like if they're going to call with those hands, that's when you want to double barrel more frequently,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a semi bluff. Another sneaky one I would probably bet with the intention of sort of blasting with is pocket deuces, just because it's like the worst of the pairs, but it doesn't interfere with like any other weak hands either. Like if we bet and they call with a 10, they can have all their tens, they can have pocket pairs, like
Mm.
we can sort of blast off with
So it
that.
doesn't get into the way of combinations of 10x pairs and stuff like that, like 9 10s, 10 jacks, 10 queens, etc.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a tougher one though. I think one thing to note is generally speaking, as the pre-flop raiser, it's the king high boards that favor you the most. Like king high boards are the ones you want to see bet like
Okay.
almost all the time.
Good information.
I think, yeah, ace high boards are, yeah, they're more, and
Trickier.
we won't have time to get into all of them, but like, yeah, it's don't feel like you just have to see bet because there's an ace out there.
Did you mention what hand you had this hand? Or is this just a
No, this is just a situation I
uh
thought of where it
uh
was sort of
okay.
yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about because it's like tricky.
It is tricky, yeah. And I didn't I'll tell you what, I would never have made a play with deuces here. I understand the reasoning behind it. Yeah, I that's something that's not in my inventory yet, my
Sure.
tool bag.
Um,
And that's something you're going to be doing on a very low frequency, I'd be assuming. Maybe opponent dependent.
Probably not like online. I'm gonna do it. No, I think it just like a lot of times when you are in a situation where you don't have as many like logical bluffs on later streets, you use your under pairs, like your weak under pairs to do so.
Okay.
And this could end up being a situation where like, especially if something like king, queen, or jack comes on the turn, it's like now a lot of our draw, like deuces will just be the hand that makes sense to bluff a lot
Okay.
once we get to the river at least, because then our opponent could have called flop with the queen jack, turn a pair, so have second pair in a gutter, but then on the river they won't be able to call like a jam or something. And it's like, well, what hands are we going to have that we know are behind, and also like, I guess, yeah, what little to no showdown hands are we really going to have in that situation? And it's mostly just like, yeah, deuces, or like, I don't know. I think even on the flop though, I think a hand like if we have eight, nine of hearts, we might just give up.
Okay.
So
All right. Well, I only have one more hand, Wes.
yeah.
Do you have any more you want to discuss after that before we start wrapping up?
No, I mean, there's and maybe one more. It's another general spot where, yeah, it's sort of
Well, I will
we do
let's
in various
we'll get
hands.
into my last one. We'll do one more of yours. Then we'll kind of just give a summary of kind of what win and when not to see bet, and from there we'll wrap it up. How's that sound?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So my last hand is actually this last weekend at the MSPT Running Aces. It's a very simple, straightforward spot. we'll just kind of get into the action here. So I have heaps at this point. I have 560K at 5K BB. So over 100 bigs. We're not in the money yet, okay? But we are approaching day 2 bubble.
Mhm.
We're right near the end. I opened King of Spades, Queen of Diamonds to 10K in the cutoff, and just the big blind defense.
All
So
right.
the pot is 28K, and the flop is Jack 6-2 Rainbow. So 28 in the K, Jack 6-2 Rainbow. We have King of Spades, Queen of Diamonds. Doesn't really matter. Are we
Mhm.
c betting this dry board? And if we are, how much?
Yeah, I probably am c betting like 8K or something.
Okay, you nailed it. I
Really?
yeah, I c bet 7K.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
was gonna say 9 and I was gonna say 7. I'm like, 8's gonna be within 1K.
So the reason I'm doing this is because the board is extremely dry and I have range advantage here most of the time. If I get called, I'll get into that in a second. But these extremely dry boards are great spots to just bet small and take it down. We should win pretty frequently, and if we don't win frequently, it'll be easy for me to apply pressure on any scary turns, like any sort of 10, queen, king, or ace are cards that I could start double barreling, and then I could also check back turns that wouldn't improve my range from there. So
Mhm.
we ended up going with a small C bet and just taking it down. And nice easy hand. These are boards where we can just, and there's not any risk to our stack to try and win 28K, 7K, and we win, slam
That's
dunk.
that's such a good investment too. It's like even if your hand was ahead, like you only risked 7K to guarantee yourself the 28
Yeah,
without seeing
yeah.
cards.
So that worked out pretty well. But that was the last hand I have. Let's get into your last hand.
Yeah, so the last one I had was like, let's say we're early on, we're 80 big blinds effective with the big blind. We open under the gun and only the big blind calls. Flop is ace, king, deuce, rainbow. Check to us. I think this is, well, let's hear your thoughts. Just, what would you do with, if you flopped an ace, you had ace, jack, what would you do with like jack 10 suited, 10-9 suited? What would you do with a
Full
small
board
blind?
again, please. You know
Ace,
me.
king, deuce, rainbow.
Ace, king, deuce, rainbow. And you said that was hijack. I was kind of daydreaming there for a minute.
No, it's all right. Under the gun versus big blind.
Oh, under the gun versus big blind. Okay, so I am going to be c betting a lot, being the under the gun opener.
Definitely.
My range, because my range is much tighter opening from under gun, and ace king, anything ace king related is just going to smash me more than it smashes the big blind who didn't 3-bet me.
Yep.
So and oftentimes so if I have hands like queen 10, queen jack, and stuff like that, whether this is correct or not, I'm probably going to be sizing up just to get any pairs less than that to fold. And then hands like king X or ace X, I'll probably be c betting a little bit smaller to just try and get value from hands that are worse than it.
Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah, I'm betting like everything on this board.
Yep.
I think literally I'm just c betting 100%. And yeah, like you said, the big blind didn't 3-bet us, so they're not going to have pocket aces, pocket kings, ace king.
Mm-hmm.
We can have all those hands. I think everyone's been in a spot plenty of times where like they defend the big blind here. They'll have ace 9 or something.
Yep.
You face a bet, you call, and it's like, even though this is like a pretty good hand, you know very well like they can have all these big hands, and they know, like, I don't even think it takes like a professional level poker player to be like, they know that I don't have ace king. Like I don't know what I'm going to do if I face another big bet
Yeah.
here. And so, yeah, you just want to take advantage of that as the under the gun player here. So like you said, I like, I think I probably would size up with those like Broadway draws.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I think I would also size up. So I would size up with like, if I flopped a set of deuces or a set of kings too, because then the difference is if we flop a set of aces, there aren't very many aces left for the opponent to have.
Right.
But if we have pocket kings or pocket deuces, like, let's try and just get all the money,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're trying to get the most value for those massively strong hands. So you just hope that, I mean, you're not going to get paid anyways unless they have an ace. So you might as well just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can get with that. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much same thing. Even if we have 8-9 of hearts and it's ace king deuce without a heart, I'll c bet once, and maybe I'll c bet again depending on the turn. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think
I'm not saying we're gonna blast off with every hand, but as far as c betting, I think we're c betting like everything.
Yeah, and what an easy kind of tip for this specific spot is, or what we use to kind of decide why we're c betting 100 here is because of ranges due to position. So we're under the gun, so our range should be tighter. We should have all the aces, all the kings, all the ace kings, all the stronger hands. To whereas the big blind who didn't three bet, they're essentially capped to an extent. They could be trapping whatever you want to say. It'd be a weird spot to
Yeah, they
trap.
could have deuces. It's just they'll have less of the super strong hands than we
Yeah,
will.
exactly. So, and then being that this board having an ace and a king on there favors our range opening under the gun compared to their range defending the big blind, we're just going to be applying pressure here.
Yeah. And on the flip side too, like defending the big blind, they're gonna have so many more hands. It's not just that they have less strong hands; they have so many more hands. Like they call pre-flop 5-6 offsuit, queen 4 suited. Like they have all these sort of hands that we won't, that are just such easy folds.
Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts on that before we start wrapping up here?
No, we can wrap it up.
That sounds good. So again, Wes, what are some general thoughts about c betting to take into consideration when you're the opener and it's your turn, the flop that comes out, and you're checking or betting here? Like what do you think about again?
Yeah, mostly I think about, if let's say we make a hand, am I betting this hand to get called? If it's a good enough hand where I'm looking to value bet it, then I'll c bet, and then I'll also think, what are some hands that I'm going to do this with as a bluff, and do that. So we've talked about it a lot, but just the texture of the board comes into play a lot. Where like, is this a board where we're going to have a lot of good hands, or is this a board where our opponent's calling range will probably have a lot more good hands? If the board is more in our favor, I will lean towards c betting a lot more frequently.
Cool.
I know we alluded to this, dry boards. I'll c bet more dry boards.
Mm-hmm. And we typically take a smaller size, and there's no need to bet large.
Yep. Yeah, because they'll just have so many auto folds.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, wet boards probably bet less frequently, and then choose a larger size when doing so. What about you?
I mean, you covered most of them. Yeah, just paying attention to how many players are in the pot, their positions, what we think their ranges are from their positions, their stack sizes, the board textures, things you've already mentioned. If you guys want to discuss more c betting spots or just hands in general, do not forget to join our new Discord channel. You can find that on my pinned tweet on Twitter at Deuce Nukem. We already have over 50 members in the first week in there discussing hands and talking about stuff. It's very active, and we've had a lot of fun, discussing and learning with each other. So we would love to have you along in there. Make sure to either reach out to me or find my pinned tweet to get access to that. You can also reach out to Wes at Pitcher Cannon too if you can't get a hold of me for some reason. Again, that's our Discord channel. We'd love to have you in there. I think that is all I have for c betting today, Wes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a topic we could talk about forever. I know we'll talk about it more as we just talk about poker hands.
Yeah, exactly. I think today's goal was to just kind of go over a bunch of scenarios and give examples of what we do in specific spots and why. We really do hope that this helps you improve your game in the future.
Yeah, and I think the why is always the more important part of it. So it's like, it's not about memorizing what you're supposed to do on different spots. No one's going to play like a computer.
Yeah.
It's about taking all these different variables and sort of piecing them together in the moment to make what seems to be the best decision.
Yeah. Don't just c bet to c bet. C bet with reasoning and logic. And I think that's kind of the rule to take away here. Have a thought behind it. So I think we will wrap it up there, Wes. This was actually a kind of a fun episode. We were doing a little hybrid here through Zoom because of Wes just getting back from Vegas. So hope the quality turned out pretty well here. Anyways, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your week, and we will be back next week on Thursday again for another episode 13 of the Suited Kings podcast.